All right, so we break down the entire web scaling process using webinar structure, the value proposition, and then the aesthetics and maybe the recurrence of the webinar. Okay, so starting with the structure, your typical structure consists of, as you see on the screen, right? There should be an introduction. There'll be three value propositions or secrets that you want to bring about for your assets. We discussed briefly and to the structure for RISE 1, if you remember, right? The three secrets and the 6 stars and so on and so forth. So now you get very specific in your webinar where you start with your introduction. You have three value propositions or secrets that you want to lay to people so that they understand what your asset is all about. Then you put a sales bridge. A sales bridge is that what will make them convert, because again, if you remember, we said there's traffic which is live with you during a webinar. That is your traffic. Now you're trying to convert them into in fact, that traffic is converted into a lead because they came to your webinar, right? So traffic is when you are outreaching them with your various propositions to join a webinar. So that traffic has now come as a lead into your webinar. Now your lead, you're converting into a possible funnel or even converting into a customer sometimes, okay, in the webinar directly. So you're giving three secrets, and that bridge is all about, as I told you, it could be those lead magnets specifically. You would have used a lead magnet for the audience that you wanted to come to your webinar. In your webinar, you're giving them the lead magnet for a conversion to a customer. Okay. Now that lead magnet or a funnel magnet, if you will, right, can be interleaved or named either or. But the larger purpose is to create that sales bridge. Okay. This typically happens, as we saw, with higher value for a lower price. Number one. Number two, bundling of various other elements that come into play to create that value so that they find a lot of many freebies coming into play. So whoever is at the border will convert because of that. Got it? So that's sales pitch. For sales bridge. For a sales pitch, all right, you leave it towards the end. The people who are absolutely on the border, who just because they're finding resources to go about converting themselves and the reasons why not, right? You're not giving them a reason for not. Your sales eventual pitch will be when you put a timeline to this. Okay, so in a webinar, when you give in and roll out all your, so to speak, cards, your last card should be you're giving and that offer that you're giving them at the price and the value and the bundle and so on and so forth in that stipulated time period. If they don't convert, then of course they were not the lead or might not have the resources or whatever the reason is. They are a potential retargeting customer or retargeting lead, right? So they remain to be a lead but not a customer. Clear? With that said, during that sales pitch, when the timer is on, you have to give questions and that should be continued. You should not leave it and then get out, right? You need to let that timer be on until the time you get a Q&A session, and then you add a sales pitch once again with a shorter time duration, after which you leave. Okay, because more than this, there won't be any more conversions after that. And during that, what can also be done is you can give them a time frame subsequently, with the virtue of this can be occurring as an offer in your website, which is your landing page or something, right? Where people can visit. If they were still scrambling for resources, they could get it the next day or whatever, and then they still have the chance to do it. Okay, so during the first sales pitch, during the live webinar, your Q&A should be on. You should give them very clear stories about what's happening and what the benefits of your digital assets have led some people to, and so on and so forth, right? And some questions people might have while virtue of typing it through, you should be able to answer most adequately so that it gives them the confidence, and other people who are hearing them also gets the confidence for their conversion purposes. And then you end up with the next steps. Typically, what happens, whoever has become a lead, right, or rather whoever has become a customer, you let them know what the next step is. Whoever is not a lead, I just told you, you should give a running timestamp where people can go to a landing page or a webinar. where in that stipulated time period they convert themselves. If not, then they are probably still a lead, which you can retarget. But for the others who have converted as a sales, then the email sequence starts, right? Which website they should go to. For if it's an e-course, then you can direct them to your teachable one. If there's a community member, where should they go? Or if they have to download a book, where they should go at the discounted price, or the coupon that you're giving them to, so things like that. So all that comes in here. Clear? So that should be a typical structure. It should go between a time frame of 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Like you would have attended the other webinars. So this also typically is between a 60 to 90 minutes, or the comfort that you have, but it should at least be a 60-minute one. Okay, where you show and demonstrate things very clearly and with the virtue of those 3 secrets. Okay, then the value proposition during your webinar is if you remember the Kubler-Ross model, there is always resistance or something or the other, depending on the phases that somebody externally is going through. So some of them who are looking and seeking for some assets like this, which is beneficial for them, they probably are in one of those zones, right? So you need to smoothen that resistance by virtue of your stories, okay? By understanding, you remember that empathy factor in design thinking? That element should come out here as a story so that people can understand and avoid the resistance. This could be a Q&A format, etc., etc. So the value proposition to be very clear, okay? Assuming the persona of people that you're looking at. Then the very important factor which is intrinsic to somebody who has created a digital asset is that people are typically buying you, all right? You as a presenter. They are getting influenced by you as an influencer. And they are influenced by the storyteller or the storyteller you are. Okay, they can come to a webinar by the virtue of what you've been sending them as an ads and the others, right? But now they will buy because of you, because you convince them the very fact that what you have written and mentioned out there and what your digital asset is capable of, you're demonstrating here and adding to the story by the virtue of your value proposition, your 3 secrets and the others. So these value propositions come from 3 secrets, by the way, right? So that's what you are hitting the zone where people could be resistive. You're getting the resistance out. You are presenting in a fashion which is very empathy prone, so that where you have gone through the similar situation they have, and so on and so forth. And this is how your digital asset helped them, and all those factors. So that comes into perspective here. Then one of the most important thing is the consistency, of course, right? The language spoken, the rhythm that you have taken through, the messages that you've passed through is now consistent with what you're actually showcasing or proclaiming, and whatever you're showing on the screen, etc., is in cognizance with what you have been earlier passing your ads through. Okay, and whatever or wherever they're seeing you, they have that belief system because that showed the same persona that you had during the time they are in live with you. Okay, so these are the value propositions that you should carry on during your webinar. And then from an aesthetic and recurrence perspective, it's a template. Yeah, again, you remember the kiss and the beep and all, so those elements still stay true over here. So the templates that you create, the ambience that you show, and the frequency, that is the repetition that you do with this will create all the difference. So hence the number of webinars have been mentioned earlier. Okay, with that, let's jump to the next one. And I will join you there in a minute.